in the plural, Zachar unikeva bara otam. Why that inconsistency? Maybe these questions really are one large question, and we're going to deal with the creation of the woman. What is her role? Is she equal? Is she not equal? Is she less than a man? And again, we're asking, why did God see need to describe the creation of the woman in detail in chapter 2? And in order to understand this, we have to ask a few other questions. Nachon, was man and a woman created as two separate bodies? No. It seems to be in chapter 1 that they're not two separate bodies. So why didn't God do that in the beginning? To create a Zachar and to create a Nekeva. Why were they created together? Part 2 of this issue, if God wanted them to be one body in the beginning, okay, one body called Adam HaRishon, then why was the second body created through an operation from taking a limb, from taking a rib from man? Why didn't just God make a separate creation called Isha, just like God made a separate creation called Adam or Zachar? These questions Chazal asked themselves, and again, the ideas that I'm sharing with you, I learned from my dear father-in-law, Rav Shalom Horovitz, Shlita. Let me share with you a very important midrash that some of you probably came across when you studied Parashat Bereishith. The midrash asks, why didn't God create a woman from the beginning? Rather, God foresaw that later on, man will complain about her. At the sin of eating from the wrong tree in Gan Eden, what did man say? Why did I eat? The woman that you gave me, she offered me a fruit from the tree. In other words, he took his finger and he blamed her instead of blaming himself. Okay? What happened right after that, according to the Talmud? Once that happened, immediately God gave him a zrikat ardama. What do we call that before an operation? What is a person given? An anesthesia. God put him into slumber, tardema, and then started creating her. In other words, according to the Midrash, there's a fact that she was not created at the same time man was created. Why? Because God foresaw that he's going to complain. Whoever is not expressing gratitude does not deserve a favor. Someone that's not appreciative of what he's given, of a gift that he's given, therefore God doesn't do immediately give him a favor. In other words, we're learning here the important principle called chesed, kindness. The foundation of the world is giving. The foundation of our world is kindness. And therefore, when kindness is done, we are to say thank you. We're to express our gratitude, our appreciation for it. Okay? Unfortunately, the great rabbi of the Russian department, Rabbi Adars, he lost his wife during the Sukkot holiday. And it was a 12 o'clock midnight funeral in Ma'ale Adumim that night after Shabbat Chol HaMoed. We were there. And the three children, each of one, when they said words of farewell at the gravesite, they all mentioned how she was such a thankful person. On any little thing, she'd be saying thank you. And always teaching her children, and tremendous admiration, to teach her children always to be thankful for anything and everything given to you. Don't take anything for granted. Always say thank you. So if we understand our value and the value of kindness or a favor done to us, then we should say thank you. And therefore man was purposely this matter of the gift of giving him a woman right away was detained, was delayed, because God foresaw that man will be not expressing his gratitude, being ungrateful, what we call in Hebrew, kafui tova. That's point number one. Point number two, in addition, that God, when he was creating man himself without a woman, I don't have a wife, I don't have a woman, now I have awareness that when I will have a woman, I will realize the chesed. And I'll be so thankful and so grateful. When man finds his wife, when Adam HaRishon is now given the gift called an Isha, by definition, this gift will generate affection. This gift will generate love towards this gift called Ha'isha. The Rambam also, in the Rambam's and Maimonides' commentary to the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, some of you remember in chapter 3, it's Rabbi Akiva, he says the following: Chaviv Adam, amiable or loved is man, shenivra b'tzelem. That man was created in the image of God. And then the Mishnah says, Chiba yetera, an additional affection, no datlo. Man was made aware that he was created b'tzelem. In other words, when I'm aware that I have this divine image inside me, it makes me, this awareness will generate gratitude, thankfulness, appreciation, and so on and so forth. And that's exactly the language of the Rambam. The Rambam says, this information given to man, that he was created in the divine image, the awareness is even another level of a gift. Because there are times, for instance, out of mercy, someone gives you money out of mercy, and you don't know who you got it from. You don't know who to say thank you to other than Hashem. In other words, there are times that you're given a gift, you're given a chesed, you know who to say thank you to. Wow. The fact that you're aware helps you relate to the person, to the gift. But there are times that people do gifts without others knowing, and the person is the recipient, doesn't know who to say thank you to. He doesn't know who to generate his appreciation to. So these ideas are very, very important, but maybe it's not enough yet to explain the question too that we asked. Why was the woman created? Through an operation. Through an operation in the body that required man to be out, like within anesthesia. And to understand or try to provide an answer, I would like to read you this famous midrash that appears in Chazal, in Sanhedrin, the tractate Sanhedrin 39. Someone that wanted to deny his faith to God said to Rabban Gamliel, the great prince of the generation, he says, you know what? God, he's a thief. That's what he says to Rabban Gamliel. Why is he a thief? Because it says that what did Hashem do to man? He put him into slumber. He was sleeping, and what did God take away from man? He took out one of his limbs. Okay? What does the daughter of Rabban Gamliel was in the area? She hears that this kofar, this denier, tells Rabban Gamliel that God is a thief. She says to her father, leave him alone. Let me answer him. And then she says to this denier, and says the following, would you please bring me a judge so we can bring punishment to all the cruel people, all the people that are doing crimes? He asks her, why do you need a judge? She answers, you know what happened tonight? A bunch of robbers arrived tonight and they took away a pitcher made out of porcelain, and instead, you know what they left over? They left over a pitcher made out of gold. Again, on the police report, thieves arrived, they stole our pitcher, our vase, made out of porcelain, and instead they left something made out of gold. What does the denier say? Wow, I wish these robbers would come to my house and take things made out of porcelain, clay, and instead give me goldenware. And then that same daughter tells the denier the following: isn't that terrible that a rib was taken out of Adam HaRishon, and then he gave him a woman to serve him, to do anything and everything he needs? So the kofar, the denier, answers, that's what I say, but I claim that God should have done it overtly. God should have done it without an operation, without putting him into slumber. Then she says to this denier, bring me a piece of meat. So he brings her a piece of meat, and it's under the charcoals inside the grill, and the meat is brought. She says, eat from this. Ma, the meat was inside the charcoals. Oh yeah, I can't, it fell into the charcoals. It's all full of the charcoals of that burnt stuff. Okay? I can't eat such a thing. She says to him, so to Adam HaRishon. Had the rib, had that limb been taken out of man while he was awake, and he would have seen what that rib looked like, and she was created from that rib, he would never be attracted to her whatsoever. That's the Midrash. What lesson, what idea, moral, can we extract from this wonderful Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin? So my father-in-law brings this idea that we're really told that God did a lot of chesed with Adam HaRishon, that he gave him a wife to make him complete, and all it cost him was what? One rib. One rib. You can sit next to me over here, sir. One rib was taken away from Adam HaRishon, and now he has a wife. Don't use this chair, please. Okay? Now, we can further understand, why was this switch, this exchange done through an anesthesia? Okay? Why was it done through an anesthesia? Why was it done that he was put into slumber? We understand, because if he'd be awake and he would see from where she's made from, he would not be attracted to her. Okay? However, we still have another question. Maybe she could have been created without an operation. No operation. No saying it. And still be attracted to her. And therefore, man would, of course, be expressing his thanks and appreciation to God for the gift that he was given a wife. Maybe the problem is inside grammar. I know you, with the kippah, you enjoy learning Hebrew grammar from the Torah. And remember, in verse 27 on the right side of the chart, it says, Zachar unikeva. What does it say afterwards? Bara otam. Question. Does the Torah see in man one essence, or are they two? Remember at the beginning of the pasuk, it said bara oto, and then at the end of the pasuk it says bara otam, from the singular to the plural. So maybe the fact that the Torah changes from the beginning, bara oto, created him, to bara otam is not incidental. It's not just a haphazard change, maybe rather coming to teach us that there are two dimensions in the creation of man. There is the Tzelem Elokim, the divine image that represents the spiritual purpose of man. And maybe we can say that man, namely he and she, are one essence, are one purpose. However, and in contrast, from the material dimension, from the material aspect, really man and a woman are different beings. They have obvious differences, physiological differences, mental differences, that make them separate beings. But spiritually, bara'otel, they are one. They're one being. This understanding maybe helps us understand why only here in the creation of man is the Torah coming out to say Zachar u'Nekeva. Not in the animal world, not in the wild beast, not in the fish, and nothing. Not in the birds, not in the mammals, nowhere. The fact that God built a woman from the etzem, from the bone of man. Etzem is bone, but in Hebrew, etzem can come from the word, the very essence. Atzmaut, like the word atzmaut means independence, so too the atzmaut, the very essence of what man is. Meaning the building, vayiven, it says, and he built her. The woman was built from the etzem, comes to express in Hebrew that she is part of the atzmaut, the very essence of what man is. And if man was created in the tzelem, in the image of God, so too she, because she is part of him as far as the essence is concerned. And therefore man and woman are totally equal. And therefore that's how it was expressed in Perek Aleph. However, we come to Perek Bet and we see that the creation of a woman is a separate creation, which is a detailization of what's in chapter 1. You might think, let me say this in Hebrew for those that love Hebrew, Yitzirat Isha, Kibriya Nifredet, the creation of a woman as a separate creation, totally. If we were told from the beginning that she was a separate creation totally, could bring into our world a terrible thing, that there's going to be competition between a man and a woman. Who will prove their supremacy over who? A man over a woman or a woman over man? And therefore, what will that eventually lead to in every marriage? It'll lead to a lack of peace, a lack of true love, a lack of acceptance, right? There's going to be a lot of arguments, competition, jealousy, that will happen because of major distinctions in the physical world. But we have to learn here, in the spiritual world, a man and a woman are really equal. They have different roles, different functions in the world, but they have the same spiritual objective, but they have different roles in the world. It comes often into expression in physical difference, physiological differences like we spoke about before. Okay, that's a major point about the creation. Just a few more moments, we'll continue. God says to man that he cannot be alone. Okay? When he's alone, there's going to be problems. And then, when God says in verse 18 of chapter 2, Lo tov heyot adam levado, it's not good for man to be by himself. Usually we think, well, and man needs assistance, right? Maybe like we read in the Megillah of Kohelet. What does Kohelet say about the Numbers 2 verses 1? Quiz question. What does Kohelet say about the Numbers 2 verses 1? Tovim hashnayim. Very good. Tovim hashnayim min ha'echad. Okay? Now, this understanding raises a question, because if we're understanding that the world is full of creations and everything is created in this world to help or assist man, then we get to the role that man starts calling names. Right? Remember? He starts calling names to all the living beings of the world, and he gives them their names. All the Balei Chayim. And their names actually create a service, an essence, a role, a function in each behemah, each chaya, every oaf, okay? Everything that's brought before mankind. Basically, man, in his intellect, in his divine image, is now establishing what is the role of the fish, role of the wild, the role of the animals. Now, we usually understand the term lo tov, that the Creator, okay, Hashaborei amar einena mechavenet ladam ela leolam. K'omar lo tov leolam kulo sheyeh adam yichidi ba'olam ki yeh yichidi. It's not good that man will be alone, because the world will think, well, man is a god. Midrash says, if he's alone, if he's by himself, he's the only being in the world. He's by himself. Wow, what will the world think? That there are two gods in the world, one that cannot be seen up in the heavens and the skies, and another down here. Okay? So what did God do? He created a woman, and then through the power of reproduction in the world, human beings will not make a mistake, or the world will not make a mistake, that there's a God down below and a God upstairs. Therefore, what we have to understand is the following. Hashem wants man to have a wife. And it says she will be an ezer, an assistance and help, kenegdo. The key word over here is kenegdo. Why? Because if you misunderstand the word neged or kenegdo, we can have a lot of problems. Okay? Man has a lot of ways to be assisted in the world, but there's only one being that is equal to him in spiritual supremacy that can really help him, and that is a woman. She has her function, he has his function, and then harmoniously they can become one. But the word kinegdo means they're parallel to one to another. If they're working in harmony, then they're parallel. He gives respect to her, she gives respect to him, and they have a harmonious marriage and life, understanding that they have a common spiritual objective, yet their roles are different. And often we step on the toes of one another, and it causes problems and it causes other matters. But this is an important matter that we have to learn, that there has to be mutual respect. For a successful marriage, there must be mutual respect for one another, to understand that she is unique and she has to understand that he is unique, but they're not the same. They're different beings. And that has to sink into our minds. If you're going to be mad because she's not like you, well, first understand that you can't be two yous in this world. Everyone is unique. Everyone is different. Everyone is special. Everyone is unique. And she doesn't have your strong points, and you don't have maybe her strong points. One has to complement the other all the time, and go in the objective of supporting one another, of complementing one another, of expressing appreciation, even for the most little things. I remember before one of our sons got married, we went to a lot of rabbis to get sichot, discussions and coaching of a successful marriage, etc. And I noticed that he adopted a very interesting thing. He would write little notes to his wife before he left. If he was going to yeshiva to work with her, he left little love notes. I love you. I really appreciate all these things. And when she gets up in the morning, she reads this love note from her husband. He's thinking of me. Or in the middle of the day, he calls his wife up and says, how are you and how are you doing? Or she went through some difficult times, and he shows sensitivity to her needs, and so on and so forth. And doesn't expect, Ken. Once upon a time, when I had long days of coming home from a long day's work, I would come into the house, a dirty diaper over there on the floor, the Lego set all over the living room, spread away and everything and all this. And I said to my wife, she's busy with this, what's going on here? And she answered me, Do you think you're coming home to a museum? You think it's a museum? Everything is in its place? It's not a museum. There's life here. And where there's life, there could be even a balagan here. Yes or no? Of course. Okay? So you have to learn how to cope, how to flow with dynamic and changing situations, and then everything happens. But to remember that we need her, I need her, and she needs me. And we have to complement one of ourselves. We wish everyone, B'ezrat Hashem, that the time comes, the right time, that you meet up with your proper, right, your to-be, and B'ezrat Hashem, you build a harmonious home with a lot of children. Amen. Ken Yiratzon. You can hit that.